So it's November 18th. We have snow up here in Canada, quite a bit of it actually. The boat's put away, everything has been removed, all the batteries have been removed, they're all in the basement, and it's time to start to go through some maintenance for next spring. So I'll do this on a couple of different reels. So today, if you haven't figured that out, is reel maintenance day, and doesn't matter which kind of reel you have, maintenance steps on all of them are pretty much the same. So I'm going to go through a couple of different reels. I have a 1.3 Concept A, Chronarch CI4 by Shimano. I'll also do it on one of my Corrado, and a Tranex musky reel. So I'll reposition the camera and show you guys exactly what we're going to do. First, I'll go through all the equipment that you need. First one you're going to need is a coffee, because it's awesome. Second one is a good reel oil. So what I use is Abu Garcia Precision Oil. It works really well and replaces a lot of the greases that they put in the reels. So what you'll notice if you have a 1.3 fishing reel, when you take this apart, there's going to be globs of blue grease that are in the reel. Both their spinning reels and their baitcasters are the same thing. So what we'll do is we're going to wipe all that out and replace it with some oil. It's all you need in your reel is a little dab of oil here and there. You don't need globs of anything. It'll get mixed with the dirt and it turns into a sludge, and then what happens is your reels will start to sound a little bit crunchy as they go through. Next thing, Q-tips. Lots of Q-tips. Q-tips good. Q-tips excellent for cleaning. I have a little pair of scissors just for any kind of line that gets messed up in there. I found some weird stuff in there, so I use that to scrape some of the stuff out, and a little screwdriver to obviously take the reel apart. So I'm gonna change the field of view so that you guys can see what I'm doing, and we'll go through it step by step on all these different reels. So let's get to that part. Okay, here we are. We're going to start with the 1.3 Fishing Concept A. Really good reel. I love these things. $100 reel, best $100 reel you're going to buy for a baitcaster. So, first step on any reel that you're gonna do is just wipe out the exterior. Just underneath the thumb bar, there's going to be a lot of sludge. Just kind of get any kind of dirt that you can visibly see off the reel to start. Same thing on this little inside, it usually gets pretty dirty. Alright. So, if you don't do anything or take apart your reels, you're not comfortable on taking apart your reels, the one thing I would suggest that everybody does is on these star drags is loosen the star drag completely. A lot of guys that do a lot of flipping, you know, a lot of dock fishing, what they'll do is they will tighten the drags down, and the drag discs are shaped kind of like a U fashion. So when you're cranking down the drag, it obviously applies more pressure and flattens them out. So you want to make sure that you're storing them for the winter, and you know, we're talking 6 months without any kind of pressure. So you want to completely take that pressure off, and you'll be able to tell you'll be able to spin this pretty freely. So as we start to remove parts of this and clean them, the first thing I like to do is I always start with the opposite side plate. Let me just wipe that off, a little bit grungy. So most of them have some kind of an opening mechanism, and then just set that down. I like to pull out this as well, so I'm left with this at this point. So first cleaning is you're going to go in the inside of this with a Q-tip And you're just going to start taking out any kind of dirt, debris, down to the bearings, and just wipe it down. And you can see that it doesn't take a lot of effort to get a lot of crap out of there. So I'm just going to go ahead, do quick maintenance on this, wipe it down a couple times, and there you go. Set this aside. So as you're taking your reel apart, what you want to make sure you do is you lay things out in the opposite order that you're taking them off, so that when you put them back on, you're not getting any of the washers or spacers or anything like that in the wrong spot. So next step to any of these reels is you're going to want to take the handle and then the side plate off of this. So as far as handle goes, these are pretty easy. There's usually a nut and then a retaining nut for the washer or the spacer that's underneath. So I'm going to take that off, I'm going to put it there. So the first thing I take off is going to be here. We're going to move this way so that I know when I'm putting it back together, I'm starting from this end and going forward. So I'm just going to take a regular pair of pliers and loosen that. And there you go. Once that's loosened, handle should come off fairly easy. There we go. So as you're taking the star drag off, you're obviously going to need something to have pressure against it so that it'll come off. Put the spool back in, put your thumb on it, and then you can completely remove this. And it should screw right off. Now there's usually some washers and stuff in here, so you want to be very careful at this point about taking anything off. You see one of the washers is stuck to the bottom of the handle. So I'm just going to get that unscrewed and then pull it off. Straight up off the top, there's a washer stuck to the bottom as well. And I'll remove this, which is your drag, and then unscrew or remove the spool tension. So here we are. So at this point, I have nothing holding the plate on other than the screws. And on the Concept A, they're really, really bad at doing this, but there are 4 screws holding this in. Every single one of these 4 screws has a different size. So make sure you're aware of the order you take them out in so that you can put it back together properly. So just remove these. Let's do. And then there's another tiny one here. That'll come off. There's 3. And use something underneath where you're working, something bright, something white. I have a green one, just because it's easier to see parts laying on them versus doing this on a table, a dark table or something, and it's easy to lose all these parts. So 4th one's coming out. 4th one out. There we go. So at this point, I could remove the side plate here. This will reveal all the gears and all this stuff. So, as I said before, 1-3 have this really bad habit of putting this blue grease all over the place. So at this point, I'm not going to get too fussy about it, but I am going to remove any of the surface grease and dirt that I can visibly see right now. Anything that's clumped up, it's coming out, and it will be replaced with some oil. So you can see this grease. It's not really a great thing to have in a reel is grease. You know, all these are machine parts. All they need is a drop of oil. They don't need to be, you know, buttered up with this grease shit. And on the spinning reels, it causes more of an issue because you get a crunchy feeling once you get a little bit of dirt in there. So they need to be cleaned and replaced, and I'll do a spinning reel version of this video a little bit later. But right now I want to go through all my Baitcasters, make sure the drags are all let loose, get all this grease crap out, give them a good solid clean, and get them ready for next year. One of the things I'll do is I'll also inspect the condition of the line. I don't necessarily replace every time. If I see that the line is faded on one of the reels, but it has enough line, I'll spin this line onto another reel so that the faded stuff will go against the spool and it'll work its way out, and you can kind of get double usage out of your line that way. So I'm just going to continue to do a quick clean here, nothing fancy. Make sure you're not popping off any springs or anything as you're doing this, because you'll have a bitch of a time figuring how to put it back together. So I'll take the case. There's usually a good chunk of grease in here that I'm going to remove. And you can see how dark that is. So the clean grease is a kind of a blue, a light blue, and then once it gets dirty and gets particles in it, it turns into this black sludge, and you don't want any of that anywhere near your reels. It just causes them to break down quicker. So we'll just finish giving this a good clean here. And when I'm satisfied that I got everything visible out of it, what I'll do is I'll start putting it back together, but with some of the oil that we spoke about prior. And it doesn't matter what oil you get. You know, Shimano reels come with this pre-packaged oil, and it's absolutely fine. And it's all you need. Like I said before, a little bit of oil goes a long way. You don't need to butter it up with anything other than just a good precision gear oil. So, so now I've gotten most of all that crap out. What I'm going to do is take my oil, and I'm just going to start to put drops here and there on the gear bearings, on the gears, on the bearings, basically anywhere there's metal-to-metal contact. And this stuff is really, really good. Doesn't need a lot. You don't need to go crazy with this. It really is just a couple of drops. What I'll do is I'll just kind of throw this back together real quick, just to keep it all in, and then start to put my screws back in. And you don't want to strip the screws either, because that's a bad thing. Alright, so now I'm just going to get into any kind of crevice, just kind of remove any kind of dirt that you can. Off the shaft, off, you know, anything that's exposed at this point, because we're going to start to put this back together, and we want to make sure that we get as much dirt out of there as possible. So I'm just going to put a little drop of oil here and there, some of the bearings, and start to reassemble in the opposite direction, obviously. And as I'm putting things on, I'm doing kind of a final clean, just making sure everything's good to go. Put a drop here and move on. Now, there's a washer stuck under here, so you want to make sure that you don't pop that off, that doesn't end up somewhere it shouldn't. And I'll just give this a really good clean, because this gets pretty mucked up. And then all right. So at this point, know, most of the reel is back together. The star drag is obviously very, very loose right now, but it's on enough that it's not going to shake off. What you could do at this point is just kind of start to wipe down the body, get any kind of extra grease. Because it's so open right now, it gives you a really good opportunity to get into a lot of crevices and start to remove some of the dirt. And if you haven't done this in a couple of years, you're going to find, especially on the inside here, it's going to be really, really crusty. You want to make sure you take your time, clean that off as good as possible, because it does get pretty nasty. Right, this is just to prevent any further breakdown. These reels will last you a long, long time if you take care of them. Good thing about living in Canada is you get to put them away for 6 months, so it gives you an opportunity to give it a proper clean, get it ready for next year, for next spring. Reel handle is going to go back on now at this point, and then I'm just going to wipe off any excess grease. I'll clean my paddles at a later date. The 1.3 come with white paddles, which is great because you can see the dirt, but they get dirty really, really quick. And then this nut, you don't want to over tighten. I'm just going to give it a couple of turns until it's pretty snug. That ain't going anywhere. So here you go. So we're pretty much almost done. At this point, I mean, we're just going to oil the outer casing, some of the bearings inside. You don't want to get too much grease or oil in here. That's really what provides the spool tension. So if it's got too much oil, it's just not going to work very well. I'll wrap my line around here very carefully. Just make sure I can dip it back in without pinching it. And then we'll put this back together. Now, there are some ball bearings here that do sit against that. You know, if they're spinning good, if they're looking clean, I won't put any oil on those. Just because I don't, you know, ball bearings, they're not meant to be gummed up for the most part, and especially on a fishing reel. So at this point, I just want to, you know, put everything back together. I'll put another couple drops of oil, bearings here, and then sandwich this back on. All right, so at this point, what we're going to do, we'll replace our spool, replace our side plate, and then we're going to lock it in. And then, there you go. Tighten this a little bit, just a touch. Make sure our drag is pretty loose. Guess you're ready to roll. All right, so that pretty much does it for this reel anyway. I'm just gonna loosen the drag all the way. Loosen the spool tension, and then no crunchy. Nice and clean. One thing I like to invest in on all my reels, and it doesn't matter which reel you're using, are these little neoprene reel covers. Just keep the dust off of them throughout the winter as you store them, and makes it a lot easier just to pop these off in the spring. Give them a quick wipe. There's not too much dust on them. It just makes sense. And if you're ever traveling with reels, right, that's a great idea as well. Even having them in your boat, if you don't use your rod racks and you're just piling reels on top of each other, this is a great way to travel. It's easy to pop them off and get to fishing. There we go. The same process. It's the same concept, right? All of these reels are pretty much the same concept. You want to remove the opposite side, pull your spool out, loosen everything off, remove the handle, work your way in, and then wipe out any kind of dirt, any kind of grease, and then work your way back out as you apply a little bit of oil. and that'll keep your reels working for many, many years. You know, it really sucks when you have to replace your reels every now and then, especially when you're spending some really good money, right? I mean, the new Corrados are beautiful. They're not the cheapest things on the earth. I have, you know, some of the old gens, the green ones, the silver ones, the dark silver, and the black ones. So I kind of have a little bit of each of the generation of them, and I still love them all. The green ones I think are fantastic reels. I've had them for many, many years. They've never failed me, never had a problem. And the same thing, you're talking a Chronarch, you know, several $100s that you're spending on a reel, so you want to make sure you take care of it and keep it well maintained on the off season so that it performs for you during your fishing season. So hope this helped you guys. I'll do one on spinning reels because it is a little bit of a different process on how to break it down and where to put some oil. But just remember, take out the grease, take out the dirt, replace it with some clean precision oil, like this Abu Garcia precision oil, and your reels will, you know, they'll continue to function without any kind of mechanical breakdowns throughout the years. And these should last you many, many, many years. So I hope you guys like this video. I will make sure that I get it up and see what your comments are, and also do a spinning reel, like I said, video. Also do a rod video as well. How to check your guides, how to clean your cork if you do have it, and the EVA foam on your rods, because they're just as important and just as expensive, right? So you want to make sure that you keep your investment dealt with. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.